what's the way out? What's an alternative to that?
I'm sorry. I think I hear my mother calling. No, I don't know. But I mean, it is clear that that the situation, again, the nuance has been lost, and the situation has become so polarized and polemicized that each side does seem to think that the other are monsters and shouldn't exist. At least among the groups, we find some of them. And of course, we also find, I mean, I have a number of friends in Israel, and most of them hate Netanyahu. Yeah. So, you know, the politics is complicated. Very often you got a despotic ruler like that who, you know, goes against the will of most of the country. And of course, I see the problem as a political problem. That, you know, but it's also definitely ethnic and cultural. And I don't know how you educate. There are a lot of groups that do the kind of interdisciplinary interfaith work, even, you know, in Israel and in the Middle East. But, you know, it's few and far between, and it gets hard to sustain when the government is being so brutal and the blame is generalized in that way. So I don't know if I can. I mean, I do not have a solution to a problem that's been brewing for 5,000 years. But
oh, come on!
give me a minute. But I do think it does seem at times kind of intractable, and so I you know, it seems to me like with Freud, you know, there's this endless irrevocable, irredeemable conflict between the id and the superego, I think. And Freud's goal was just to turn personal misery into common unhappiness. So I think if we can just mitigate the problem, that would be a step in the right direction. Just, you know, make it less volatile. Because right now, everybody's a powder keg ready to blow. And everybody's looking for an excuse to get upset about something. And again, it goes all the way back. I mean, it's like, oh, you were doing this because you just did this to us 10 years ago. Oh, we did that to you 10 years ago because you did that to us 15 years ago. And it goes back 5,000 years. People are just going to have to get over it, you know, which is, I know, not possible. But that would be the goal, would just get over yourselves. I mean, let's talk about the future and not the past. I mean, especially when there's so much culture there that...
I've got something.
Yeah.
So it has been said that every home in Palestine, or at least Gaza, is not without a person in prison or in an Israeli jail. This was before 10/7/2023.
And where does that data come from?
Every home in Palestine.
I'm saying, where's that information come from?
Where's that?
I think possibly somewhere on Democracy Now! But I wrote this a little bit ago. Now it can be said that every Palestinian confined in an Israeli prison is without a home outside of their cell, or possibly without their entire family, who they cannot have any sort of contact with anyway. Our carceral state here in America and the carceral state of Israel are uniquely tied, and anyone serious about bringing the fight for truth and justice to the forefront of political action and spiritual restoration, anyone of our so-called democracy and our so-called democratic state, our slaveocracy and our slave state, must contend with and understand that these people across the Atlantic, in the land which is biblically and historically known as Canaan, did not get due process. These people that were locked up did not get due process, just like my ancestors and many of my siblings languishing in jails and prisons and detention centers across this country and down at the border today.
Yeah, that's an important issue. And again, it goes all the way down. And when we talk, see, and to me, I'll say that I think the blame originally, at least as far as the modern situation is concerned, goes back to the British when they abandoned Palestine and did not set up a two-state system right then and there. They said, you guys fight it out. And it's been going on since then. And so it seems that I do think that somehow they're going to have to figure out a way to have a two-state system. But the notion that people are being enslaved, basically, I think is a real important issue in this situation. People are losing their human rights. And I think that's the real tragedy here. And it's going to be felt for generations. So, I mean, even when we solve the problem, I think the problem's going to persist for generations. You had your hand up a second ago, no?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Let's bring the discussion home.
Yeah.
Here, we all claim we love America, e pluribus unum, and people of faith who claim they love Jesus with all he taught, yet they claim to the MAGA tradition. How do you reconcile that?
Let's face it, this is what I'm talking about, nuance in religion. If all Christians were Christians. Let's face it, it's very often the church of convenient biblical interpretation. It's, whatever suits my inclinations that's how I'm going to interpret the text. And let's also be clear, it's my firm conviction that very few people of a faith read their own text. One of the things Jesus says is don't parade your pride. Because he's criticizing the pompous piety of the priests with their big hats striding through the town. And he's saying, keep it to yourself, keep that light under a bushel. So one thing, I don't know what Jesus would do, but I know one thing Jesus would not do is put a bumper sticker on his car saying, what would Jesus do? Right? Because then you're taking pride in your faith, and that's exactly what Jesus tells you not to do. But it's the same guy who has a tattoo, quoting Leviticus about homosexuality, and skipping the fact that 2 lines later it says tattooing is punishable by death. So in psychology, we all want to be the hero of our story. And so we narrate the story in a way that spins it in our favor. And, we just don't. That's why I think it's really important to be broadly educated, and to read your text. And we read parts of the Bible in my world religions class, and people say, you must be using a different Bible then. Because it's like, I never knew that stuff was in there, So, whatever. The sons of God mating with the daughters of men and producing a race of giants? Well, that must be a different Bible. Anyway.
Do you see a two-state solution possibly emerging, or how?
Well, I think not under the current political climate. To me, I don't know. And again, I'm not a politician, but in terms of demagoguery, I think Netanyahu has to go. Because I think, again, most of his country doesn't agree with his policies. I have no idea why he's being so aggressive, but he's always been aggressive in that way. And so seems to be part of his character. But you get a different government in there, and the climate changes. And at that point, it might be possible to have that conversation. But right now, I think the positions are so entrenched, and everybody's feeling deeply threatened. And when people feel fear, that's when we clam up. We shut down, we close the aperture, and nothing gets in, because it's terrifying. It must be really scary. And you gotta get people to get over their fear. And I don't know how to do that. To me, the solution is always teaching. I've never been. That's why I've never been interested in politics, because in politics, you change people's behavior ultimately at the point of a gun. You're forcing them to change their behavior. But in teaching, you're changing people's minds, and one at a time. And it's so slow compared to politics. But to me, politics is always counterproductive. You're always forcing people to do things that they don't want to do. And I'm too much of a psychoanalytic type to think that it's a good idea to prevent people from doing what they want to do. Not that we should do everything we want to do.
I'm actually concerned that the two-state solution is actually too much. What You know, so Kamala Harris is talking about the two-state solution. I think the two-state solution is not realistic at this point in any kind of near future.